Hello and welcome to a special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. We're broadcasting out of our West Coast studios in the Diocese of Orange in California. I'm Catherine Seltner, and it is truly good to have you here with us. After an emotionally charged hearing in court this week, the United Kingdom sets a new hearing in the case of 11-month-old Charlie Gard. Charlie's parents now have the chance to present fresh evidence that their terminally ill son should receive an experimental treatment. Charlie suffers from mitochondrial depletion syndrome, a rare genetic disease that has left him brain damaged and unable to breathe unaided. His parents have raised money to bring him to the U.S. for experimental therapy, but British and European courts have sided with the hospital's decision the baby's life support should end. The reopening of the case at London's High Court may allow Charlie to receive the experimental treatment at his current hospital or abroad. The hospital applied for another court hearing because of new evidence, which came from researchers at the Vatican's Children's Hospital and another facility outside Britain. Both Pope Francis and President Donald Trump fueled international attention to the case, with hospitals in Rome and the U.S. offering to provide Charlie the treatment. Here in the United States, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell delays the start of the August recess in order to pass a health care bill. This comes following mounting pressure on Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare. President Trump tweeting this week, "I cannot imagine that Congress would dare to leave Washington without a beautiful new health care bill fully approved and ready to go." The August recess will now begin the third week of the month, and pro-lifers are closely monitoring the health care negotiations before then. The U.S. House back in May passed a health care bill with two pro-life protections. The first stops tax dollars from going to health insurance plans that cover abortion. And second, it defunds Planned Parenthood of more than $400 million tax dollars. The senators, though, are under immense pressure from abortion advocates to cave on these provisions. With the clock ticking before the next congressional recess, pro-lifers must make our voices heard. Back in May, the House of Representatives passed a health care bill that does two important things. One, it stops American tax dollars from going to health insurance plans that cover abortion. And two, it defunds Planned Parenthood of more than $400 million of our tax dollars. The Senate is under immense pressure from the abortion industry to drop those pro-life protections, so it is incredibly urgent your U.S. senators hear from you right now. Here is this week's call to action. Tell your U.S. senators to keep pro-life protections in our healthcare by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. That's ProLifeWeekly.com. This is how you can tell your U.S. senators to keep abortion out of our health care. Simply go to ProLifeWeekly.com, type in your name and personal information, and click submit. The reason you put in your information is so this message is personalized for your senators. That's it. It's that simple. Take this action and you will add your name to the petition that tells the U.S. Senate to stop using our tax dollars for abortion in the health care bill. Once again, sign the petition at ProLifeWeekly.com and share this call to action with your friends and neighbors and fellow defenders of life. Abortion advocates are painting a grim picture for what defunding Planned Parenthood would mean for women's health. But with life-affirming health centers continuing to expand across the U.S., it's becoming more and more clear we don't need Planned Parenthood. One example of a pro-life health care provider is Obria Medical Clinics, founded by businesswoman Kathleen Eaton Bravo. The clinics offer pregnancy tests, STD treatment, ultrasounds, prenatal care, OB care up to birth, cancer screening, natural family planning instruction, and comprehensive programs both before and after birth to help men and women succeed. We're joined now by Kathleen Eaton Bravo, president of the Obria Group and founder of Obria Medical Clinics. Kathleen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so good to meet you. Tell us, what is the patient experience like at one of your clinics?
It's lovely. Actually, you know, when we tried to define the patient experience, that's a great question. We actually, when we got all done, we brought a company in to do it. What does it mean to come to an Obria? And at the end, it all was an agreement that it's a place where they felt like they were at home, that they're coming home. That's a beautiful feeling, that they're loved and cared for so much that they feel like they're home.
That is the pro-life movement, right?
Yes.
I read somewhere the Obria and the started, saving about 4 babies a year, but then by 2014, 1,000 babies a year. What's the key to that success?
Well, basically, as you know, Catherine, I come out of the for-profit field, and I started my own company and went up against large companies and said, what is my niche and how can I compete? And when I did, I actually was working with the largest biomedical device companies in the world. We're going up against large abortion providers, as you know, Planned Parenthood. And so looking at a niche, it's deciding that the only way that we can do that is create a model across the street or in the city, in the community, that is a full comprehensive healthcare for women. We also see men, it takes two to get pregnant, but really focused on women's care. In other words, we have to have a model of healthcare that doesn't just meet what they provide over there minus contraception and abortion, but expand it into much more services where the women could come, get care, go upstream and look at the issues that she's dealing with, why we do STD testing and treatment and well woman care and cancer screening, because if she didn't come to us, she'd go to Planned Parenthood. They come to us, they come back. So when they do think they're going to have sex and want the pill, they come to us. And of course, we teach them fertility education and how beautiful their body is. And that's the story. And that's how we win.
And actually have prenatal care for them, OBG care up until birth. You mentioned you were working in the business world, very successful in the for-profit sector. Why go into this movement?
Well, interesting thing is I founded my for-profit, and then someone came to me and said, there's a pregnancy center closing here in town. And I said, no, I've volunteered at a pregnancy center in Oklahoma. And I was really ready to go back into the business world, support my family. And so then a God nudge, a phone call. And the same day I founded my for-profit, I founded the nonprofit, and the pregnancy center, I opened it back up. It was a birthright. I made it, turned it into Birth Choice, and now Obria. And so I did that on the side as a volunteer for 18 years, and I ran my company to support my family. And then when things changed in my life and the kids were gone, I closed that and came here full time.
Wow, and you're really a pioneer in this. Obria also has an app for the smartphone. Kathleen, can you tell us and tell our viewers, what is the pro-life movement up against when it comes to technology? Why is this app so crucial?
Well, let me tell you, I was just sharing with a lot of people, and it gets me really fired up to understand that technology is changing so much in healthcare that I'm constantly reading articles. And like I shared the Wall Street Journal just in an article this weekend about by 2020, where are we going to be? And bottom line is, I have this to say. Abortion today is on the smartphone. And if I could hold it up and show you, because it's so powerful, abortion today is on the smartphone.
What do you mean by that?
Well, basically 71% of millennials, and that was 2014, so I'm assuming it's at 90%, millennials want their health care online. They're smart, they know, and they also know they can get the abortion pill within those first 10 weeks after pregnancy, and they can do it through telemedicine. So telemedicine app is basically an online virtual medical clinic. She downloads the app, she searches for the abortion pill, abortion, contraception, mostly the abortion pill, at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, in her home, 15 seconds, she's connected to Planned Parenthood Direct. It's Planned Parenthood's telemedicine, launched February of 2015. And a nurse answers, and she fills out a patient intake form. It's processed through, and it's actual, she can video chat or text chat the nurse. If she's looking for the abortion pill, in some states they'll ship it right to her house. She doesn't have to go into a brick and mortar. And now they do their contraception, they do their STD testing and treatment through an app, they do their UTI. They're basically serving young women and millennials through telemedicine on their smartphone.
This is the future of what we're looking at. Can you, Kathleen, for viewers who want to go to one of these clinics, where can they look, where can they find one?
Well, first thing is telemedicine, Obria Direct. I shared Planned Parenthood Direct. Go to Obria Direct. That's our telemedicine app. We've launched it here and beta tested it here in Southern California. We're now preparing to launch it nationally. And then we're hoping as we move, we also have a national trademark brand. We changed and became Obria so we could own it, trademark it, and create a brand along with telemedicine. So we have the online virtual clinic and we have the brick and mortar clinics where women can get to know a safe place, a loving place, an alternative to Planned Parenthood. If we do not have alternative comprehensive women's health care clinics, we're going to continue driving women into Planned Parenthood. We can control this and control the market if we get these clinics out there and create a brand that they know and love. They buy brands. Everybody buys brands, and we don't have a brand in the pro-life movement.
And we need to do that. Kathleen Eaton Bravo of Obria Group, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, so much.
Turning now to more pro-life news, an Oregon measure approved last week requires insurance companies to provide abortion services at no cost in the state. Cost-free abortions are already set into place in other states, such as New York, where they are provided at no cost if deemed, quote, medically necessary. In Oregon, however, the patients would have access to the procedure without this requirement. Women may have abortions for free at any time and for any reason, including sex selection and late-term abortions. The measure will also allocate about $500,000 over the next 2 years to expand so-called reproductive health coverage, including abortions, to immigrants who are otherwise ineligible under the Oregon Health Plan. Quebec has decided to offer the abortion pill to women for free. Quebec's health minister announced the decision last week. Women who are up to 7 weeks pregnant can get the pill upon a doctor's consultation, a mandatory ultrasound, and a follow-up appointment. Doctors will not be forced to prescribe the drug if it goes against their personal convictions. Chilean pro-life group Movimiento de Mujeres Reivindica protested on the Constitutional Plaza in Santiago de Chile last week after Chilean legislation moved forward to legalize abortion in the country. The bill, promoted by the President Michelle Bachelet and the recently founded party Nueva Mayoría, characterized the abortion debate as one of extreme urgency, which expedited the decision in the Constitutional Commission of the Senate. The law will now continue on its legislative course onto the Treasury Commission of the Chilean High Chamber. Health officials report 111 terminally ill people in California took life-ending drugs in the first 6 months after assisted suicide was legalized in the state last year. Nearly 200 people received life-ending drugs, and over 170 doctors prescribed them in California. Also, according to the health report, nearly 90% of those who took their own lives were 60 years or older, and most had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Assisted suicide is also legal in Colorado, Montana, Vermont, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. I had the chance earlier this year to ask Los Angeles' own Archbishop Jose Gomez about the topic of assisted suicide and how Catholics should respond to the alarming law. His Excellency reiterated the need to be present for those who are suffering, especially the elderly. Your state, California, recently legalized assisted suicide. More and more states are introducing similar legislation. How do you respond to the claim and the argument that people should have a choice as to when life should end?
Well, we follow what we were talking about, that human life is created by God. God is the one who has the right to start life and end life, in a sense. So I think for us, it is important to support people, as I said before, from conception to natural death. I think a lot of times, it's just that the people have the concern of what's going to happen to them, who's going to take care of them. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he was telling me that this elderly person was telling him, make sure that you don't leave me alone when I get old. So this person died when he was 92. He was always had that concern. So I think a lot of people have that concern. So for us Catholics, I think an important part of our ministry is to be there for the elderly. In the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, we are trying to have in every single parish ministry for the elderly, especially for people that are in nursing homes. So we want to support them in that challenging time.
Joining us now is Kathleen Domingo, the Director of the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Kathleen, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we just heard from Archbishop Gomez saying there's a need for ministry specific for the elderly. Is this a response to legalize assisted suicide here in California, or is this for a separate purpose?
Right, so I'm so happy that you're sharing Archbishop's words. He is such a blessing for us as our shepherd in LA. Yeah. Really, when we were fighting assisted suicide 2 years ago, we learned a lot of things. So first of all, we learned that our Catholic population polled at the same as the rest of the population when it came to assisted suicide. And we were really struck by the fact that our folks were just not prepared to deal with this issue. And I think the narrative that we have in our culture right now is that death is something scary, it's something to be afraid of. And the media really does sort of portray the worst case scenarios, right? So most people actually want to die at home, but very few get to. Most people die in the ICU or they languish in nursing homes. And unfortunately, that narrative is pervasive. So what we've decided is the best thing to do is to help people understand that death can actually be a beautiful part of life. especially in our Catholic tradition, where we can be surrounded by loved ones and family and friends at the end. And it can be a time of joy and reconciliation and peace. And I think that's really what Archbishop is getting to. He's getting to the heart of the parish is meant to be an extended family, right? So what our parishes can do is really be there for people when they're sick, when they're suffering, when they're in great need, so that no one has to face the end of their life alone.
Here in California, especially in Los Angeles, the pro-life battle is extremely active. How does the Archdiocese of Los Angeles respond? Can you tell us about some of your initiatives?
Absolutely. So we've got a lot of challenges in California. We talked about assisted suicide being legalized. There's one place very near our offices in downtown LA where there are 9 abortion providers in 1 square mile. Wow. We've got 30,000 kids in foster care. We've got 60,000 people homeless and on our streets in LA. It really is ground zero for people in need. And so what we try to do with the Archdiocese is we really want to mobilize people. And first we have to show them their own dignity and help them to understand who they are and what they've been put on this earth to do, so that they can then go out and intentionally build a culture of life by whomever they meet. So we follow Pope Francis. He asked us to go out to the peripheries, right? He asked us to look at those people who are thrown away in our culture. And we try to get people to do that because they are driven by that love of Christ that they see in their own hearts first. We know that women very often find it difficult to understand the dignity of their unborn children if they don't first understand their own dignity. And so we like to start there.
That every life is a gift. The title of your office is the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace. What's the vision behind that?
So the vision really there is Archbishop's. When he came to LA, he thought that would be the best place to start by uniting some things that can seem disparate at times. And so what we found is that it really resonates with people. People see that there are folks in need and we're called to help them, right? We're all brothers and sisters in Christ together. And so sometimes we have to defend life vehemently, and other times we're called to embrace life. So go out and see those people on the peripheries who really just need some help. And sometimes, like today, we're called to proclaim life, to teach and to advocate. And so we do all of those things through our office, and we try to have that seamless understanding of helping those in need.
As someone who does evangelize about the sanctity of life, that's a huge part of your job. What advice would you have for our viewers who want to share that message with their friends and their neighbors?
Sure. I would say let's be as positive as we can. I think when we're sharing the message of building a culture of life, we need to understand that it's not just an intellectual idea that we're asking someone to assent to. It's actually a complete life change. And so we need to be ambassadors of a way of life that is attractive to other people. And I think sometimes when we get in the middle of the fray, when we're fighting or demonstrating, we forget that people are looking at us and saying, do I want to be like her? Do I really want to espouse that kind of lifestyle? So I would just say, keep it positive, unify whenever possible, and really recognize that you are, in fact, the message.
And I love that idea. You are an ambassador. We're all ambassadors carrying that message. You know, we touched on it a bit, how California does present several different challenges. Through your work, how do you hold on to hope? What brings you hope and what drives you?
We are very hopeful for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, one of the things that we've done here is we've created the event One Life LA. And it is a beautiful event. It's in January, so it's part of, sort of in solidarity with all of the pro-life events taking place around the country. But ours is a little bit different. It's really a festival. We bring people together to celebrate the beauty and dignity of every human life. And we get people across the board from every strata of our culture in Los Angeles. And we bring people from every language. And we all come together just to celebrate. And so there's an opportunity for unity there. What we're also doing is helping shift that conversation, again, toward positive, toward reaching out and bringing everyone together. And then we ask everyone to leave with an idea of what they're going to do next to build a culture of life. So we bring organizations there to actually sign people up for volunteer service to build a culture of life in their communities.
And to have those practical next steps that they can do at a local level. Kathleen Domingo of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, thank you for your work and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
When we come back,
every time before we go down a film shoot, and my cameraman Chris here will attest, we pray first of all. This is a battle. This is Ephesians 6.
Filmmaker Kevin Dunn shares his experiences from behind the lens and around the world to build up the pro-life cause. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to a special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, broadcast out of our West Coast studios in the Diocese of Orange in California. I'm Catherine Seltner. A major abortion group started a Twitter campaign last week with the claim pro-lifers don't support life. That's this week's Speak Out segment. NARAL Pro-Choice America started using the hashtag What's Pro-Life About to, quote, expose hypocrisy about the Republican health care plan and the pro-life movement. The abortion lobbyists spent most of last Friday promoting the hashtag and retweeting or sharing other Twitter followers who were also spreading misconceptions about the pro-life cause. NARAL literally advocates for women to kill their own child with an abortion. If NARAL is trying to expose hypocrisy, I think they succeeded in doing that with this Twitter campaign. They expose the hypocrites they are for telling pregnant women to kill their unborn baby, the most vulnerable of us all, while trying to brand themselves as heroes for life or something. This is a deceitful campaign that is beyond perplexing. Also, NARAL, need I remind you, one of your founders, Dr. Bernard Nathanson, quit his job, said what the group was telling America was based on lies, and became an outspoken convert to the pro-life cause. NARAL is a group founded on lies to deceive women into getting abortions. Luckily, soon after NARAL Pro-Choice America launched this Twitter campaign last week, pro-life leaders were quick to respond with the truth about the pro-life message. The Susan B. Anthony list tweeting out, "What's pro-life about? Human rights for all humans. Don't discriminate on age. Adoption is greater than abortion, and women deserve better." Jeannie Mancini, president of the March for Life, said, "Respecting the inherent dignity of the human person from conception to natural death, hashtag what's pro-life about." Remember, you have a role in countering today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action and go to ProLifeWeekly.com to tell U.S. senators to keep abortion out of our health care. In order to build up the culture of life, we need to share stories of life and the threats to life from around the world. A man named Kevin Dunn is doing just that. He's a Canadian producer, director, and speaker who has traveled the globe documenting the life issue, and he's this week's ProLife Focus.
My grandma has a deep fear of death, and I think it was these things that motivated her to become a sponsor of a group of people in this country whose sole purpose is to perpetuate euthanasia in our country. It's called the Hemlock Society.
Which is now called what?
I'm not really sure.
Compassionate Choices.
From behind the lens, Kevin Dunn is using his gifts and talents to build up the pro-life movement.
So we're sitting there watching the euthanasia deception. By watching this program, from the start of the program to the end of that program, she flipped 180 degrees about her view about euthanasia.
And it moves hearts. After successful beginnings in the media business, making documentaries for channels like Discovery and History, filmmaker Kevin Dunn believes he was called to showcase the value of life on screen.
A few people said, you should really be using, your gifts, or at least some of your gifts, towards the pro-life movement. I said, yeah, you know what? You're right.
3, 2, 1, make some noise!
I'll never forget that moment. And 10 years later, we're assisting EWTN in bringing the March for Life Canada to English-speaking territories throughout the world.
On these very steps of Parliament Hill, the late great Mother Teresa spoke. The beautiful thing about the pro-life movement is that it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things for God.
I just met so many incredible people within the pro-life movement, all peaceful, all just so resolved in the fight against the culture of death. And so, having 6 kids myself, healthy, praise be God, I want to give back. I have so much to be grateful for, but there's so much work to be done out there. And one of the best ways to do it is through the media, and I've been blessed with that opportunity and people around me to help me do that.
The media here in Belgium, they say that the best way of dying is to get euthanasia.
Over time, Kevin has created several documentaries laying out pro-life issues in the world today with a focus on euthanasia and assisted suicide. He finds in countries like Belgium and the Netherlands, it's become an even bigger problem.
Having traveled to Belgium last year and just witnessing how in the beginning the law for assisted suicide and euthanasia was for a very, very small group of people. How that has slid into a discussion now, 15, 16 years later, you know, where along the way we've got people who are depressed getting euthanasia. We've got people who are actually being euthanized without their consent, 1,000 people in 2013 in Flanders region. By the time this interview airs, we will have gone to Holland, where they are discussing the opportunity for assisted suicide for anybody who feels they've lived a completed life.
Our value, the meaning, the worthiness, the dignity of life comes from within, from who we are as children of God.
Because Dunn's films have the power to influence others, he makes sure to include God into his work.
Every time before we go out on a film shoot, and my cameraman Chris here will attest, we pray first of all. This is a battle. This is Ephesians 6 time. We're not dealing with powers down here. We're dealing with the ones in the heavens. He knows he's got us on this end with the abortion debate. The evil one is now turned to the other side and squeezing in.
Using the powerful influence of film, social media, and television, Kevin Dunn hopes to continue moving hearts.
If we can use this device, whether it's a long-form documentary or a 2-minute clip or a small meme, just as I've talked to you about those 2 top issues, man, we can change hearts, we can change minds. People can say, I never knew that before. Let me look into it. And we can change hearts, we can change minds.
That's it for this special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. You can reach us anytime at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you again next week from Washington, D.C. Life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.